The air in the grand ballroom feels electric as I stand in the shadows, watching my brother Alex bask in the spotlight. His perfectly tailored suit catching the golden glow of the stage lights as he steps forward to accept the Innovation Excellence Award. The crystal trophy gleams in his hands, a testament to a revolutionary software system that will transform how Morgan Financial handles data security. A system I created entirely from scratch over 18 sleepless months. I want to thank the incredible team at Morgan Financial for this recognition. Alex's voice booms through the speakers. A practiced smile stretches across his face as he scans the adoring crowd. This security system represents countless hours of dedication. Countless hours of my dedication. My fingers tighten around the small flash drive in my pocket, the one containing irrefutable proof that the coding architecture, the innovative solutions, even the name of the project were all mine. For a moment, our eyes meet across the ballroom. A flicker of something, panic, warning, crosses his face before his smile returns, brighter than before. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Emma Chen. I'm a software developer with 15 years of experience building security systems that protect some of the nation's largest financial institutions. I'm also the invisible architect behind my brother's meteoric rise in the tech world. This pattern started long before tonight's award ceremony. It began in our childhood home on Maple Street, where Alex first learned that my achievements could easily become his with the right words and our parents' willing. Belief. The memory surfaces as I watch him pose for photographs, trophy held high. Alex, age 12, standing before our science fair judges, confidently explaining my volcano design as if he'd spent weeks perfecting the chemical reaction that made it erupt with such impressive force. Me, age 10, silently watching from the sidelines, stomach nodding as our parents beamed with pride. He gets his scientific mind from his father, Mom had whispered to another parent. The applause pulls me back to the present. Alex is finishing his acceptance speech with the signature phrase I'd written in my project notes. Security isn't just about building walls. It's about creating intelligent systems that think 3 steps ahead of any threat. Words from my journal, now immortalized as his brilliance. Jessica slides next to me, champagne flute in hand. You okay? Her voice barely audible over the continued applause. Jessica has been my best friend since college, the only person who has witnessed the full extent of Alex's plagiarism of my life's work. I'm fine, I whisper back, though the familiar pressure builds in my chest. Just waiting for the right moment. Because tonight will be different. Tonight, for the first time in 32 years, I will speak up. The stage lights dim as the CEO of Morgan Financial, Patricia Mills, returns to the microphone. Let's give another round of applause for Alex Chen and his groundbreaking achievement. The room erupts again, and I force myself to join in, clapping, mechanically while the truth burns in my throat. And now, Patricia continues, we have a special video presentation about the development of the Phoenix security system. My heart races. This is it. The moment I've been planning for 3 months. The moment that will either liberate me or destroy me. The massive screens around the ballroom flicker to life. Alex's face appears, talking about his inspiration for the project. I scan the crowd for him and find him at the VIP table. Champagne. Glass frozen halfway to his lips, eyes widening as he realizes this isn't the approved video. Because on the screen, the timeline has shifted. The familiar development footage now includes timestamps and embedded webcam videos of me coding late. Into the night. My digital signature appears on every major component. Email threads between Alex and me display in crystal clear resolution, showing his demands for my work and promises that we would share the credit when the time is right. A murmur ripples through the audience. Patricia's professional smile falters as she glances between the screen and Alex. My brother is on his feet now, frantically searching the crowd until he spots me stepping out from the shadows. Our parents, seated at Alex's table as his honored guests, turn to look at me with confusion. Dad's bushy eyebrows furrow in that familiar way that always made me back down, make peace, keep quiet for the sake of family harmony. Mom's hand flies to her pearl necklace, a gift from Alex after his last promotion. A promotion built on my network security protocol. The video shifts to a split-screen comparison between my original design documents and the final product, identical in every meaningful way. Then the recording of Alex's voice. "Emma, just send me the final code. I'll make sure you get a good bonus this year." No one needs to know who really built it. The ballroom has gone completely silent. I walk slowly toward the stage, each step feeling like I'm moving through water. Years of remaining silent, of accepting Alex's explanations. We're a team. I'm just better at the presentation side. Or, the family needs this win right now. Fall away with every step. Patricia's normally composed face has gone rigid with shock. She was the one who approved my request to update the video presentation as a surprise enhancement to honor my brother's achievement. A request made with just enough half-truths to get past her assistant. I reach the edge of the stage as the video ends with a simple statement. The Phoenix security system was created by Emma Chen. My heart pounds as I climb the stairs. Alex rushes toward me, his voice a harsh whisper. "What the hell do you think you're doing? You're destroying everything!" For a moment, I'm 10 years old again, being told that making a fuss would only hurt the family, that Alex's success was the family's success, that my role was to support, not to shine. But I'm not 10 anymore. "I'm telling the truth," I say, loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. "For the first time in my life." Patricia reaches the microphone first. "Ladies and gentlemen, it appears we have a situation. Perhaps we should take a brief intermission." "No." The word comes out stronger than I expected, surprising even me. "No more intermissions, no more waiting in the wings." I step up to the microphone, hands trembling but voice steady. "My name is Emma Chen. I designed and built the Phoenix security system. Every line of code, every innovative solution came from my work. Work that my brother has been taking credit for since we were children." The silence in the room is deafening. Hundreds of eyes stare at me, some confused, some skeptical, some beginning to show the dawn of understanding. "I have submitted complete documentation to the board of directors and the patent office," I continue, the words I've rehearsed for weeks finally finding their way out. "I'm not here to create a scene. I'm here because creation deserves its rightful creator." Alex lunges for the microphone, but Jessica has made her way to the stage and smoothly steps between us. Her background in corporate law making her next. Words land with precision. "Ms. Mills, Morgan Financial might want to address this situation carefully. Intellectual property theft of this magnitude has significant legal implications." The next hour passes in a blur. Security discreetly escorts Alex, me, Patricia, and 3 board members to a conference room where my evidence is reviewed in tense silence. Alex alternates between rage and desperate negotiation. "We can fix this, Em. We've always been a team. Remember how I helped you get the job here in the first place?" Another manipulation, another lie. I had been recruited by Morgan Financial directly after my work on a major security overhaul for their competitor. Alex had only joined 6 months later, immediately positioning himself as my mentor to our superiors despite his limited coding knowledge. "Ms. Chen," Patricia finally says, her CEO mask firmly back in place. "These allegations are extremely serious. If verified—" "They're verified," interrupts Robert Keyes, the head of the IT department who had always looked skeptical whenever Alex explained his technical innovations. "I've suspected for some time, but without direct evidence." He taps the flash drive I provided. "This is irrefutable. The system architecture has Emma's fingerprints all over it. Alex's face contorts with the same expression he wore when we were kids and he was finally caught in a lie too big to talk his way out of. Emma has always been jealous of my success, he tries, voice rising. She helped with some minor coding, yes, but the vision was mine. The leadership was mine. Robert raises an eyebrow. Then perhaps you can explain to us how the quaternary encryption sequence functions. It's a critical element of the system you supposedly designed. The color drains from Alex's face. He looks to me, expecting me to rescue him as I've done countless times in meetings when technical questions arose. But not this time. The night ends with Alex being escorted from the building, his personal items to be collected later. Patricia assures me that a full investigation will follow, but Robert's confirmation has already shifted the balance of power. As I leave the conference room, employees who have always looked through me are suddenly seeing me for the first time. My parents wait in the lobby, their faces a storm of confusion and betrayal. But not betrayal by Alex, betrayal by me for breaking the family's unspoken code. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. How could you humiliate your brother like this? Mom hisses, her hand still clutching her pearls. After everything he's done for you. Dad stands with his arms crossed, disappointment etched in every line of his face. We raised you to support each other. Family protects family. The familiar guilt rises, but Jessica steps in. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, with all due respect, Alex has been stealing Emma's work for years. She's simply reclaiming what's rightfully hers. It was never stealing, Dad insists. Alex has the personality for leadership. Emma works better behind the scenes. They complement each other. The truth hits me anew. They knew. Perhaps not the extent, but they knew Alex used my work and they considered it the natural order of things. I need to go, I say quietly, the weight of decades of silent compliance suddenly suffocating. Jessica, can you drive me home? My parents make no move to stop me. In their eyes, I've broken something precious. The comfortable fiction that our family worked in perfect harmony, each person knowing their place. The apartment feels emptier than usual when I return, though nothing has changed. The same plants on the windowsill, the same laptop on the coffee table where I'd stayed up countless nights perfecting the Phoenix system while Alex sent demanding texts about deadlines and presentations. I sink onto the couch, the adrenaline finally wearing off, leaving me hollow. My phone buzzes continuously. Colleagues, friends, even reporters who somehow got my number. I silence it all. Sleep evades me. Instead, I find myself opening old family photo albums stored in a box under my bed. Graduation day, Alex front and center, arm around my shoulders as the valedictorian, though we both knew I'd written the speech he delivered to thunderous applause. Science Camp Awards, Alex holding the first place trophy for a robotics project I'd designed after he'd gotten bored with it. College acceptance, Alex beaming with our parents, flanking him proudly as he held his MIT letter, never mentioning that I'd received the same acceptance 2 years earlier, but chose the local university to help care for Grandma. The pattern is painfully clear in these frozen moments. Not just Alex taking credit, but me yielding it. Me believing that my role was to be the foundation upon which my brother could build his success. Morning comes with harsh clarity and a decision. I shower, dress in my most confident outfit, a sharp blazer over a simple blouse and tailored pants, and drive back to Morgan Financial. The office is buzzing with whispers that stop abruptly when I enter. Patricia's assistant immediately escorts me to the executive floor where the board has convened an emergency meeting. Ms. Chen, Patricia begins when I enter. Her tone is different today, respectful, even slightly contrite. We've reviewed your evidence thoroughly and consulted with our legal team. There's no question that you are the creator of the Phoenix system. The validation should feel sweeter than it does. Instead, it just feels necessary, like finally being able to breathe after holding my breath for years. The company would like to officially recognize your contribution, she continues. We're prepared to issue a public statement, adjust the patent applications accordingly, and discuss appropriate compensation for your work. And my position? I ask, because this has never been just about one project. Robert speaks up. We'd like to offer you the Director of Security Innovation role, the position that was being created for Alex following the award. It's where you belong. 3 weeks later, I stand at the same podium where Alex had accepted his award. The room is filled again, though with a different energy. Curious, evaluating, some still skeptical. The Phoenix system is being formally relaunched under my leadership. My parents declined the invitation to attend. Our last conversation ended with my mother in tears, and my father stating that I had destroyed Alex's career out of petty jealousy. My brother has taken a position with a smaller firm in another state, already crafting a narrative about creative differences with Morgan Financial. But as I begin my presentation, I see other faces in the crowd that matter. Jessica, beaming, with pride. Robert and his technical team, who have spent the past weeks expressing their admiration for the elegance of my code. And surprisingly, my grandmother, who took a train 6 hours to be here, her weathered hands clutching a small album of my childhood achievements she'd kept hidden in her hope chest. The Phoenix security system represents a new approach to data. Protection, I begin, my voice finding its strength with each word. But it also represents something more personal to me. The power of finally standing in your truth. The presentation flows naturally as I explain the technical innovations in terms the entire audience can understand. Questions come rapid fire afterward, and for the first time in my professional life, I answer them without deflecting credit or minimizing my contribution. As the crowd disperses, a young woman from the development team approaches hesitantly. Ms. Chen, I just wanted to say, she fidgets with her conference badge. I've admired your coding architecture for months, even when it was, well, you know. But watching you today made me realize I've been letting my brother present my research at university as his own. She takes a deep breath. If you ever need a junior developer who's learning to speak up, I'd love to apply. And there it is, the ripple effect. The realization that standing in my truth might help others find theirs. That evening, I sit at my kitchen table with Grandma as she shows me her secret collection. Ribbons from math competitions she'd attended while my parents were at Alex's baseball games, newspaper clippings of robotics tournaments where I was mentioned in small print, a folder of my early code designs that she had kept though she didn't understand them. I always saw you, she says, patting my hand with hers. I just didn't know how to fight the pattern. Your grandfather and I, it was the same with his brother. Some families repeat their mistakes until someone is brave enough to break the cycle. Her words settle something in me. This was never just about one award or one project. It was about generations of imbalance, of talent suppressed and contributions erased. My phone chimes with an email notification. It's from Patricia. The board has unanimously approved my proposal for a mentorship program targeting underrepresented groups in tech security. I'll have the budget and authority to build a team of people who deserve to be seen and heard. For the first time in months, maybe years, I feel the weight lifting. The path forward isn't about exposing Alex further or convincing my parents they were wrong. It's about creating spaces where others won't have to fight so hard to claim their rightful place. I close my eyes and let myself feel it all. The grief for what my family could have been. The relief of finally being recognized, and most surprisingly, the excitement for what comes next. My story isn't ending with that revelation at the award ceremony. In many ways, it's just beginning. Grandma shuffles through her album to the final page. There's a blank space there, waiting. I saved this spot, she says with a small smile, for whatever you do next. I place my hand over hers, feeling the strength in her aged fingers, the same strength that flows in me, that perhaps has always been there, waiting for the moment I would claim it. I think, I tell her, we're going to need a bigger album. The days following the awards ceremony blur together in a kaleidoscope of meetings, depositions, and whispered conversations that halt when I enter rooms. Morgan Financial has gone into damage control mode, with the legal department working overtime to revise patent applications and reassess all previous projects Alex had claimed as his own. The unraveling is swift and thorough. I sit across from Daniela Vega, the head of HR, in her meticulously organized office. Plants line the windowsill behind her, thriving, unlike the withered piece Lily Alex kept on his desk for show. Daniela slides a folder across her desk, her expression carefully neutral. These are the revised terms of your employment, Ms. Chen. Her fingers tap the embossed company logo. The board has approved a substantial compensation package to address the previous oversights regarding credit for your work. I scan the document, the numbers making my breath catch. The salary adjustment alone is nearly double what I had been making. Back pay for 3 major projects, a signing bonus for accepting the director position that Alex had been groomed for. The financial validation feels surreal after years of watching my brother receive bonuses for my innovations. There's also this, Daniela continues, producing another document. A formal public statement acknowledging you as the creator of the Phoenix system and several other security protocols previously attributed to Alex. Patricia would like your approval before it's released. The statement is carefully worded, acknowledging my contribution while minimizing the company's failure to verify authorship. The language frames it as a misunderstanding rather than what it was. Systematic theft enabled by a culture that found it easier to believe in my brother's genius than to see my quiet competence. I'll need to review this more carefully, I say, tucking both documents into my bag. And I'd like to suggest some revisions to the mentorship initiative. Daniela nods, relief flickering across her face. I suspect the board expected a lawsuit or at least more public drama. They don't understand yet that my goal was never to burn everything down, only to claim what was rightfully mine and create space for others to do the same. As I leave the HR office, my phone buzzes with a text from Jessica. Your brother's on the local news. Channel 8. Dread pools in my stomach. I duck into an empty conference room and pull up the station's live stream on my tablet. Alex stands before a different kind of spotlight now, the harsh glare of media scrutiny. His usual polished appearance is slightly frayed at the edges. He's chosen a setting that projects humility, a community park where he once judged a children's coding competition, using evaluation criteria I had written. I want to address the recent allegations regarding the Phoenix security system, he begins, his voice carrying the practiced sincerity that has opened doors for him throughout his life. My sister Emma is an incredibly talented developer who has always worked in my shadow. I understand her frustration. The reporter, Tanya Williams, presses. Are you saying you didn't take credit for her work? Alex's smile tightens. Emma and I have always been a team. In any collaborative environment, there can be misunderstandings about contribution. Perhaps I wasn't clear enough about acknowledging her role. According to Morgan Financial's investigation, Emma Chen created the entire system, not just components, Tanya counters. They're revising all patent applications to name her as the sole inventor. The camera catches the flicker of anger before Alex regains control. Morgan Financial is doing what they feel is necessary from a legal standpoint. I've chosen to step away rather than engage in a public dispute with my sister. Family comes first. The familiar twist of his narrative makes my hands clench into fists. Even now, he's positioning himself as the magnanimous brother, sacrificing his career to protect family harmony. My phone rings, Mom's contact photo appearing on the screen. Her face frozen in a smile from my brother's graduation dinner. I silence the call, knowing exactly what she'll say. That I should issue a joint statement with Alex, that we should present a united front. That family matters more than credit or compensation. Instead, I text Jessica. Meeting for lunch? Need a reality check. We meet at a small cafe 3 blocks from the office. The normalcy of ordering sandwiches and sparkling water feels like stepping into someone else's life. Jessica watches me with careful eyes as I push salad around my plate. "You saw the interview?" she asks. I nod, taking a sip of water. "He's rewriting the narrative again." "Are you surprised?" "No." And I'm not. This has been Alex's pattern since we were children. When caught, he doesn't deny, he reframes. The science fair volcano became a project we worked on together. My perfect math scores became our family's aptitude for numbers. My code became our team's innovation. "Your parents called me," Jessica says, surprising me. "Your mom tried to convince me to talk some sense into you." A bitter laugh escapes. "Of course she did. What did you tell her?" "That you make your own decisions, and that it was about time someone recognized your brilliance." Jessica reaches across the table, squeezing my hand. "But Emma, are you prepared for how ugly this might get? Alex has built his entire identity on taking credit for your work. People like that don't just concede defeat." Her words settle heavily in my chest, because she's right. This isn't over. In some ways, it's just beginning. The hardest part won't be the legal proceedings or the professional adjustments. It will be holding firm against the emotional manipulation that has defined my family dynamics for decades. I've spent my entire life making myself smaller to protect his ego, I say quietly. I can't do it anymore. Jessica nods. Then don't, but be ready. This is going to get worse before it gets better. She's proven right that evening when I return to my apartment to find my parents waiting in the lobby. Mom's eyes are red-rimmed, Dad's mouth set in a grim line. They've never visited my building before, always insisting that family gatherings happen at their house or Alex's spacious downtown condo. "We need to talk," Dad says, his tone making it clear this isn't a request. I lead them up to my apartment, hyper-aware of the space through their eyes, the minimalist furniture, the walls covered with framed algorithms rather than family photos, the 3 computer monitors on my desk surrounded by empty coffee mugs. This is my sanctuary, the one place where my work has always been unquestionably mine. Mom paces the living room while Dad takes a seat at my small dining table, looking uncomfortable and out of place. "Your brother is devastated," Mom begins, without preamble. "His fiancée has postponed the wedding. Did you even think about how this would affect Melissa? About the children they want to have someday? Your future nieces and nephews?" The absurdity of her concern almost makes me laugh. "Mom, Alex stole years of my work, millions of dollars in intellectual property, my entire professional reputation." "You never cared about recognition before," Dad cuts in. "You were always happy working behind the scenes. Why now? Why publicly humiliate your brother?" The question lands like a physical blow because it reveals so much. They still don't see it as theft. In their minds, I willingly gave my work to Alex, and my decision to reclaim it is the betrayal, not his decision to take it in the first place. "I cared," I say softly. "I always cared. You just never noticed." Mom stops pacing, her hand going to her pearl necklace, the nervous habit she's had for as long as I can remember. We've always been so proud of both our children. Alex is he's always been the face of the family, the one who knows how to talk to people, how to make connections. So that gives him the right to claim my work as his own, to take credit for everything I've created? "You're twisting things," Dad says, his voice rising. "Alex gave you opportunities. He got you the job at Morgan Financial." "No, he didn't." I take a deep breath, steadying myself. I was recruited based on my work at Sentinel Systems. Work. That was published under a pseudonym because I was tired of Alex taking credit. He followed me to Morgan 6 months later and immediately positioned himself as my mentor, despite knowing less about security protocols than the summer interns. The revelation hangs in the air. Mom looks genuinely shocked, but Dad's expression hardens. "You've always been jealous of your brother's success," he says, falling back on the familiar accusation. "Even as a child, you resented how easily things came to him." "Things didn't come easily to him," I counter, feeling a lifetime of suppressed anger bubbling to the surface. "He took them, my science projects, my college essays, my coding breakthroughs, and you helped him do it." Mom gasps. "Emma, that's not fair. We've always supported both of you." "No, you supported him and expected me to do the same. There's a difference." I move to the bookshelf and pull down a photo album I've rarely opened. "Let me show you something." I spread the album on the coffee table. Each page contains newspaper clippings, certificates, and photos, artifacts of Alex's success throughout the years. Science fair victories, coding competition awards, scholarship announcements, articles about his career achievements. "Do you notice anything strange?" I ask, flipping through the pages. They stare at the collection, confusion evident on their faces. "Every single achievement in this album was based on my work," I say quietly. "Every single one." The science fair project, where he won first place. I spent 3 weeks building that simulation. The coding competition where he got a college scholarship. He presented my algorithm. The Forbes 30 under 30 profile, based on security protocols I developed while he took client meetings. Dad shifts uncomfortably. "You always work together on projects. That's what siblings do." "No, Dad. He took my work and put his name on it. That's what thieves do." The word lands like a slap. Mom's eyes fill with tears, but I notice something else there too. A flicker of recognition that she quickly suppresses. "Your brother called us this morning," she says, changing tactics. "He's willing to issue a joint statement saying you both contributed to the Phoenix system. He's trying to salvage what's left of his career. Can't you meet him halfway?" And there it is, the familiar expectation that I should compromise, that I should give up pieces of myself to make peace. The pattern so deeply ingrained that even now, facing irrefutable evidence of Alex's theft, their solution is for me to continue giving. "No," I say, the words simple but firm. "I won't lie to protect him anymore." Dad stands abruptly. "I don't recognize you, Emma. The daughter we raised would never destroy her brother's reputation like this." "The daughter you raised finally decided her work deserves recognition," I counter. "And maybe that's the problem. You never raised me to believe that." They leave shortly after, Mom in tears, Dad in cold silence. The door closes behind them with a finality that echoes through my apartment. For the first time, I've refused to minimize myself for the sake of family peace, and the cost is immediately clear. I sink onto my couch, emotions churning. The liberation of speaking my truth collides with the grief of realizing my parents may never truly see me. The phone rings again, Alex this time. I let it go to voicemail. His message is what I expected. Equal parts pleading and veiled threats about mutual destruction if I continue pursuing this. I delete the message and turn my attention to the documents from HR. The statement acknowledging my work needs significant revision. It's not enough to simply correct the record moving forward. The pattern needs to be exposed for what it was. Systematic theft enabled by a corporate culture that found it easier to believe in male genius than female competence. My laptop beckons from the desk. I open it and begin to write. Not just revisions to the company statement, but my own public account of what happened. The words flow easily after years of silence, detailing not just the technical aspects of what was stolen, but the emotional toll of being erased from my own achievements. Morning finds me still at the keyboard, surrounded by empty coffee mugs. The document has evolved into something more than I intended. Part technical explanation, part personal manifesto about recognition and credit in the tech industry. I save it, knowing it's not yet time to share it publicly. First, I need to secure my position at Morgan Financial and ensure the revised patents are properly filed. The company moves with surprising speed over the next 2 weeks, perhaps motivated by fear of legal action or negative publicity. They implement every change I requested to the public statement and employment terms. The director position becomes official, complete with a corner office that had been reserved for Alex. Robert, the IT department head who confirmed my authorship, becomes an unexpected ally. I've suspected for years, he admits as he helps me, move into the new office. The discrepancy between Alex's presentations and his technical knowledge was obvious to anyone paying attention. I should have said something sooner. Why didn't you? I ask, genuinely curious. He pauses, considering. Honestly? Because it was easier not to. He was charming, connected to upper management. Questioning him meant creating conflict. Robert looks genuinely ashamed. And I guess part of me thought you were okay with the arrangement. You never spoke up. His words stay with me as I settle into my new role. How many others suspected but said nothing? How many assumed my silence was consent rather than coercion? The pattern extended beyond my family into the professional world, people willing to accept a convenient fiction rather than challenge a comfortable hierarchy. The first test of my new resolve comes during a meeting with potential clients, representatives from a major banking consortium interested in implementing the Phoenix system. Patricia introduces me as the creator and lead developer, but moments into my presentation, one of the executives interrupts. "I'm confused," he says, frowning at his tablet. "We were briefed by Alex Chen last quarter. The materials we received listed him as the system architect." All eyes turn to me. The old Emma would have smoothed this over, found some diplomatic way to share credit while doing damage control. But I'm not that person anymore. Alex Chen misrepresented himself, I state clearly. I designed and built the Phoenix system. Morgan Financial has corrected all official documentation to reflect this fact. Patricia tenses beside me, clearly concerned about the client's reaction. But instead of objecting, the executive nods slowly. "That explains some things," he says. Chen couldn't answer several technical questions during our preliminary meeting. Said he'd have his team follow up. He focuses on me with new interest. I'd like to hear directly from the actual creator how the quantum-resistant encryption components work. For the next hour, I walk them through the system's architecture, answering questions with a confidence that surprises even me. By the end, Patricia is beaming, and the banking consortium is ready to sign a contract 3 times larger than initially projected. As we leave the conference room, Patricia pulls me aside. "You handled that perfectly," she says, genuine appreciation in her voice. "I was worried, but..." She hesitates. "I think we've all underestimated you, Emma, including me." Her admission is satisfying, but also illuminates the depth of the problem. Even the company's CEO had accepted the narrative of Alex's genius without question, never wondering how a man with limited technical skills could create such sophisticated systems. The next challenge comes from an unexpected direction. Melissa, Alex's fiancée, waits for me after work, leaning against my car in the parking garage. We've met only a handful of times at family events, where she always stayed close to Alex, laughing at his jokes and deferring to his opinions. Today, her face is drawn, her designer handbag clutched like a shield. "We need to talk," she says, echoing my father's words from weeks earlier. But her tone is different, less demanding, more uncertain. I agree to coffee at a nearby shop. We sit by the window, awkward silence stretching between us until Melissa finally speaks. "Is it true? Did Alex really take credit for your work all these years?" The directness of her question surprises me. "Yes, I answer simply. He did. She nods slowly, as if confirming something she already suspected. The night of the award ceremony, when he came home, he was different, panicked in a way I'd never seen before. She twists her engagement ring, a massive diamond that catches the light. He kept saying you were trying to ruin him out of jealousy, but then I found these. She slides her phone across the table. On the screen is an email thread between Alex and someone named David from the patent office. The messages discuss expediting patents for the Phoenix system components under Alex's name, with one particular line standing out. Need to file before E realizes the implications of the architecture she created. My stomach clenches. Even as he smiled at me across family dinners, congratulating me on my contributions to the team, he was actively working to legally claim ownership of my innovations. There are dozens more like this, Melissa says quietly. I found them when I was using his laptop to plan our honeymoon. He has folders of your work going back years, labeled with your name, then relabeled with his for submissions. Why are you showing me this? I ask. Her fingers trace the rim of her untouched coffee cup. Because I need to know who I'm marrying. He told me you were brilliant, but preferred to work behind the scenes. That you had anxiety about public speaking and presentations. That you were grateful for his help bringing your ideas to light. The familiar narrative twists like a knife. And you believed him. I did. Her eyes meet mine, torn between defensiveness and dawning horror. Everyone did. He's so convincing. When you trust someone, you don't question their stories. I understand her position better than she knows. I too had accepted Alex's framing for years, that he was doing me a favor by presenting my work, that his charisma was as valuable as my coding skills, that we were a team with different but equal contributions. What will you do now? I ask. Melissa slips her phone back into her bag, shoulders straightening. I've moved out of our condo. The wedding is officially canceled, not just postponed. She pauses. And I've sent copies of everything I found to your lawyer. The revelation stuns me. Why would you do that? Because what he did was wrong, she says simply. And because I've spent 3 years with someone who isn't who I thought he was. There needs to be accountability. As she stands to leave, she hesitates. There's something else you should know. Last week, he met with people from Daedalus Tech. I think he's trying to position himself for a fresh start there. Same story, new audience. The information settles like a weight. Even now, Alex is looking for new opportunities to reinvent himself, potentially at the expense of other developers who might not recognize the pattern until it's too late. Thank you, I tell her, meaning it. This couldn't have been easy. No, she agrees, gathering her things. But neither is standing up for yourself. You've been doing the hard thing a lot longer than I have. Her words stay with me as I drive home, windows down, the evening air clearing my head. The scope of Alex's deception extends beyond what even I had imagined. It wasn't opportunistic or occasional, it was strategic and comprehensive. And without intervention, it would continue. The decision crystallizes as I park outside my apartment building. This isn't just about reclaiming my past work anymore. It's about protecting others from the same pattern of exploitation. Opening my laptop, I revisit the document I wrote that night after my parents' visit, my personal account of Alex's systematic theft. With new resolve, I begin to revise it, adding what I've learned from Melissa. The document evolves from personal vindication to public warning, naming not just Alex, but the systems that enabled him, the corporate cultures that accept male-dominated narratives without question, the family dynamics that prioritize certain members' success above others' autonomy. By midnight, it's complete. My finger hovers over the publish button on my personal blog, a platform I've used only for technical articles in the past. Publishing this means there's no going back, No possible reconciliation with my brother or parents. It means exposing not just Alex's actions, but my own complicity in staying silent for so long. I think of the young developer who approached me after my presentation, admitting that her brother was presenting her research as his own. I think of Robert's confession that he suspected but said nothing. I think of all the quiet, competent people whose innovations have been claimed by louder, more confident voices. I press publish and close my laptop. The world doesn't change overnight, but ripples begin immediately. By morning, my inbox overflows with messages, some supportive, some skeptical, some sharing similar stories. Tech blogs pick up the post, contextualizing it within broader conversations about attribution and gender in the industry. Give credit where it's due begins trending on social platforms. Alex calls 17 times. I let each go to voicemail. His messages evolve from rage to bargaining to a final desperate plea. We can fix this, Em. We've always been a team. Remember how we built Mom's website together in high school? We need each other. The memory he references is telling. One of the first times he took credit for my work. The team effort where I coded for 3 weeks while he presented the finished product to our mother as mostly mine, with some help from Emma. The foundation of a pattern that would define the next 15 years. I don't return his calls. Instead, I focus on rebuilding my career, my reputation, my confidence. The Phoenix system launches successfully under my direction. I hire the young developer who approached me, creating space for her to grow while ensuring her work carries her name. The mentorship program expands, identifying talented individuals who might otherwise be overlooked or exploited. 3 months. After the award ceremony, I receive an envelope with no return address. Inside is a yellowed newspaper clipping, a photo of me at age 9 receiving a mathematics award that I'd forgotten about entirely. Below it, in my grandmother's shaky handwriting, I always knew. I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner. Some burdens shouldn't be carried alone. The note brings unexpected tears. All those years I thought no one saw, but someone did. Someone who, like me, had stayed silent out of complicated family loyalty. The realization is both heartbreaking and healing. A reminder that patterns of silence often span generations before someone finally speaks up. That evening, I call my grandmother for the first time since the confrontation with my parents. Her voice sounds smaller than I remember, fragile with age but warm with affection. "I've been reading about you," she says, "following everything online. You were always the smart one." "Why didn't you ever say anything?" I ask, the question that has haunted me about so many people in my life. A long pause. "Your grandfather was like Alex," she finally says. "Charming, ambitious, taking credit where it wasn't due. I thought that was just how marriages worked. Men in the spotlight, women in the shadows. I didn't want that for you, but I didn't know how to change it." We talk for an hour, bridging years of unspoken understanding. She tells me stories I never knew, about her own thwarted ambitions, about watching me follow a path painfully similar to hers, about her silent pride in my achievements even when they bore my brother's name. "Are you happy now?" she asks as our call winds down. "Now that everyone knows the truth?" The question gives me pause. Happiness seems too simple a word for the complex reality I'm navigating. Professional recognition alongside family estrangement, public validation alongside private grief. "I'm free," I say finally, "and that's enough for now." 6 months after the award ceremony, my new office at Morgan Financial feels like it's finally mine. Gone are the generic corporate prints that once hung on the walls, replaced with framed patents bearing my name and artistic renderings of my security algorithms. The corner windows offer a view of the city skyline, glass and steel stretching toward a cloudless autumn sky. The space reflects who I am now, visible, acknowledged, unapologetically present. My assistant Zoe knocks lightly on the open door. "Your 10 o'clock is here," she says. "Conference room B." I gather my tablet and notes, smoothing the front of my navy blazer, a small ritual of preparation I've developed since taking on leadership responsibilities. The hallway conversations no longer pause when I approach. Instead, colleagues nod with genuine respect, occasionally stopping me to discuss technical questions or department initiatives. The shift from invisibility to recognition still feels surreal some days. Conference Room B holds an unexpected guest. Maria Lopez, CEO of Daedalus Tech, sits alone at the polished table, her expression unreadable. My pulse quickens. According to Melissa, this was the company Alex had approached after his departure from Morgan Financial. "Ms. Chen," Maria stands to shake my hand. "Thank you for meeting on such short notice." "Of course," I reply, taking the seat across from her. Though I admit I'm curious about the purpose of this meeting. Maria's fingers tap a rhythmic pattern on the folder before her. "I'll be direct. Your brother approached Daedalus 3 months ago with a proposal for a new security architecture. He presented impressive credentials and claimed to be the original architect of the Phoenix system, despite recent discrepancies in attribution. The familiar anger flickers, but I keep my expression neutral. And you believed him? Not entirely, which is why I'm here." She opens the folder, revealing printouts of technical specifications eerily similar to my ongoing research, projects that haven't even been patented yet. He provided these as samples of his current work. Our technical team was impressed, but something felt off. The coding style inconsistent with the presentation style. After your blog post went viral, I decided to investigate personally. I study the papers, recognizing sections of code I had worked on just weeks earlier. "These are from my private development server. He shouldn't have access to this." Maria nods, her suspicions confirmed. "I thought as much. We didn't move forward with him, but I felt you should know. And," she hesitates, "I wanted to apologize for almost becoming another platform for his deception. The interaction feels significant. Perhaps the first time someone has approached me proactively about Alex's pattern, rather than requiring me to expose it myself. Thank you for bringing this to me. I'll need to investigate how he accessed these files. There's something else." Maria slides a business card across the table. "Daedalus is expanding our security division. We're looking for someone to lead the department, someone with proven innovation capabilities and authentic technical expertise. The position would include complete attribution rights for all work developed under your leadership." The offer catches me off guard. After fighting so hard for recognition at Morgan Financial, the idea of starting fresh somewhere else hadn't occurred to me. I'm flattered, but I've just established myself here. "Consider it an open invitation," Maria says, rising to leave. "And fair warning, I'm persistent when I find talent I want for my team." After she departs, I contact Morgan's security team about the leaked specifications. The investigation is swift and thorough, revealing an uncomfortable truth. My credentials had been used to access the development server multiple times in recent months, from an external location matching Alex's new address. The revelation sends me spiraling back to childhood memories. Alex borrowing my school login to access the advanced computer lab. Alex using my library card to check out programming books that later appeared in his room. Alex somehow always knowing my passwords despite my frequent changes. The pattern extended far beyond taking credit. It involved systematic identity theft focused on accessing knowledge he could claim as his own. I change all my passwords, implement two-factor authentication on every account, and file a formal report with both Morgan Financial and the police. The official response is supportive but limited. The evidence isn't enough for criminal charges, though it strengthens the civil case my lawyer has been building. That evening, I find myself driving to the outskirts of the city, where tech startups have transformed old warehouses into modern offices. The building housing Alex's new venture, a cybersecurity consultancy called Secure Forward, glows with ambient lighting. Through plate glass windows, I can see him in what must be his office, gesturing animatedly to a small group of people gathered around a conference table. I park across the street, watching from a distance as my brother performs his familiar routine, the charismatic leader, the visionary, the genius. His audience appears captivated, nodding at whatever technical marvel he's describing. Are they new developers, unaware their innovations might soon bear his name? Are they investors, ready to fund the next iteration of his stolen success? My phone buzzes with a text from Jessica. Where are you? Thought we were meeting for dinner at 7. Reality snaps back into focus. What am I doing here, lurking outside my brother's new domain? This isn't moving forward. It's remaining trapped in the pattern, still organizing my life around his actions. I start the car and drive away, leaving Alex to his performance and whatever consequences may eventually follow. The restaurant where Jessica waits is warm and bustling, the antipode to my cold surveillance. She waves from a corner table, already halfway through a glass of wine. Sorry I'm late. I slide into the seat across from her, grateful for the normalcy she represents. Got caught up in something. Jessica studies my face with the perceptiveness of 20 years of friendship. Alex something or work something? Both, actually. I relay the day's events as we order: Maria's visit, the stolen specifications, my impromptu drive-by of Alex's new office. You need to let it go, Jessica says when I finish, her tone gentle but firm. Not the legal case. That needs to proceed. But this, she gestures vaguely, this ongoing emotional investment in what he's doing, it's keeping you tethered to the past. Her words sting because they're true. Despite reclaiming my work and establishing my own reputation, part of me remains fixated on Alex's movements, as if my validation still depends on his downfall. I know, I admit. It's just, he's still doing it. Still stealing, still lying, still potentially hurting other people. And that's terrible, Jessica acknowledges. But you've done what you can. You've warned the industry. You've established the truth about your own work. You can't be the Alex police forever. The conversation shifts to other topics: Jessica's law practice, my mentorship program, an upcoming tech conference where I've been invited to speak. By the time we part ways, I feel more grounded, reminded that my life extends far beyond the shadow of my brother's deception. The next morning brings a call from Grandma. Have you seen today's paper? She asks without preamble, her voice unusually energetic. No, why? There's an article about Alex's new company, a full-page spread in the business section. She hesitates. He's claiming to have developed something called Quantum Shield. Says it's going to revolutionize data protection. My blood runs cold. Quantum Shield was the project name for my latest work. The specifications Maria had shown me, the research Alex had somehow accessed from my development server. I'm sending you the link, Grandma continues. The photo, Emma, he's standing in front of your algorithm boards, the same designs you showed me last month. Sure enough, the images in the article show Alex before a whiteboard covered with my distinctive notation system, the architectural framework I'd been developing for quantum-resistant encryption. The article quotes him extensively about his visionary approach and breakthrough methodology, phrases lifted directly from my research notes. This time, the anger that rises feels different, cleaner, less tangled with old hurts and family dynamics. This isn't about childhood slights or familial recognition. This is straightforward intellectual property theft with potential industry-wide implications. I forward the article to my lawyer, Sandra Marshall, who calls back immediately. This changes things, she says, professional calm masking what sounds like genuine outrage. We now have clear evidence of ongoing willful infringement after explicit notice. I'm filing for an emergency injunction this morning. The legal machinery moves with surprising speed. By afternoon, a judge has issued a temporary restraining order preventing Alex or Secure Forward from developing or promoting anything based on the quantum shield architecture. The company's investors, made aware of the potential intellectual property issues, begin to distance themselves publicly. I expect to feel vindicated, but the emotion that surfaces is closer to exhaustion, bone-deep weariness at the seemingly endless cycle. For every boundary established, Alex finds a new violation. For every truth revealed, he constructs an elaborate new fiction. That evening, my parents arrive unannounced at my apartment for the second time. Mom looks older than she did 6 months ago, the lines around her mouth deeper, her shoulders slightly stooped. Dad's former imposing presence has diminished, his confidence replaced with something that might be uncertainty. "May we come in?" Mom asks, the request itself a change from their previous demanding entrance. I hesitate before stepping aside. Their last visit ended with accusations and estrangement. We haven't spoken since. What could they possibly want now? They sit awkwardly on my sofa, neither reaching for the tea I offer out of ingrained politeness. The silence stretches until Dad finally speaks, his voice lacking its usual authority. "We saw the article about Alex's new company." He clears his throat. "And the court order." I wait for the defense of Alex that usually follows, the familiar refrain about family loyalty and sibling support. Instead, Mom reaches into her purse and extracts a worn notebook I instantly recognize, my coding journal from high school, filled with early algorithm designs and program concepts. "We found this when cleaning out the storage room," she says, placing it on the coffee table between us. "Along with these." She adds a stack of graded papers to the pile, my advanced programming assignments, each bearing perfect scores and teacher comments about exceptional promise. Underneath those, something unexpected. A letter from MIT offering a full scholarship, dated 2 years before Alex received his partial scholarship to the same institution. "I never saw this," I say, picking up the letter with trembling fingers. "I didn't even apply to MIT as an undergraduate." Mom's gaze drops to her hands. "Alex said you weren't interested in moving away from home, that you wanted to attend the local university to stay close to family." The revelation lands like a physical blow. Not only had Alex taken credit for my work, but he had actively limited my opportunities to establish my own path independent of his. The pattern extended beyond theft to active sabotage. "Why are you showing me this now?" I ask, struggling to keep my voice steady. Dad shifts uncomfortably. "We've been talking to a therapist," he admits, the confession clearly difficult for him. At first, it was about coping with the family conflict, but over time, the conversations shifted to patterns in our family dynamic. "Dr. Winters helped us see some things differently," Mom adds. "She asked us to bring evidence of both our children's achievements, separate from one another. When we started looking, we realized..." Her voice falters. "You realized Alex had been taking credit for my work since we were children," I finish for her. Mom nods, tears threatening. "Not just taking credit, actively hiding your accomplishments from us. The award ceremony wasn't the first time, was it?" "No," I confirm. "It was just the first time I spoke up." Dad's hands clench and unclench in his lap, a nervous habit I've rarely seen. I keep thinking about science fairs and school projects, how he always presented while you stood in the background. I thought you were shy. I never considered that he was presenting my work, that he was deliberately keeping me in his shadow. The words come out sharper than intended, decades of suppressed hurt finding voice. "You never asked. You just assumed Alex was the brilliant one and I was the supportive sister. We failed you," Mom says simply, the admission hanging in the air between us. We reinforced a dynamic that allowed him to take what wasn't his, over and over again. The acknowledgement, so long sought but never expected, leaves me speechless. For years I imagined this moment, my parents finally seeing the truth about their golden child and the daughter they'd overlooked. But the reality brings no triumph, only a complicated grief for what could have been if they'd recognized the pattern sooner. "What do you want from me?" I ask finally. Dad looks up, his expression raw with an emotion I've rarely seen him display. Remorse. Not forgiveness. Not yet. We haven't earned that. He pauses, choosing his words carefully. We want to start over. To know our daughter as she actually is, not as the person we assumed she was. And Alex? The question feels necessary, a test of whether they've truly changed or are simply adapting their approach. Mom and Dad exchange glances, some silent communication passing between them. We love both our children, Mom says slowly. But loving? Alex doesn't mean enabling his behavior anymore. We've told him we won't support him in taking credit for your work, and that he needs professional help to address his issues. He didn't take it well, Dad adds, a new weariness in his voice. He accused us of betraying him, of choosing you over him. He doesn't understand that this isn't about choosing sides. It's about acknowledging the truth. Their visit ends with no dramatic reconciliation, no tearful embraces or promises of restored family harmony. Instead, there's something more valuable, a tentative foundation of honesty on which some new relationship might eventually be built. After they leave, I sit among the artifacts of my early achievements, tracing equations in my teenage handwriting, rediscovering the passion that drove me even when recognition was withheld. The grief I expected feels balanced by an unexpected sense of liberation. With my parents' acknowledgement, some final weight of self-doubt lifts. I was never imagining things. The theft was real and substantial, and recognized at last by those who had enabled it. The court case against Alex proceeds methodically over the following weeks. His initial bravado crumbles as investors withdraw and technical scrutiny of his claims intensifies. Without access to my ongoing research, he can't answer fundamental questions about the architecture he claims to have developed. The pattern that served him for years, taking credit and moving on before deep technical evaluation, fails in the face of sustained legal examination. At the preliminary hearing, I come face to face with my brother for the first time since the award ceremony. He sits across the conference table, flanked by lawyers who look increasingly uncomfortable as evidence mounts. The confident charm that once allowed him to glide through the world has thinned to a brittle veneer. "This is unnecessary," he says during a break, catching me alone by the water cooler. "We're family. We should be working together, not against each other." The familiar appeal lands differently now. I see it clearly for what it is. Not an invitation to collaboration, but an attempt to regain access to my mind, my work, my creative output. "No, Alex, we're not family anymore," I reply, the words bringing unexpected peace. "Family requires mutual respect, and you've never respected me or my work." His expression darkens. "You've always been jealous of how easily things come to me, how people respond to me. You have the technical skills, but I have the leadership qualities. We could have been unstoppable together." The delusion is almost sad, his continued belief that his contribution of presenting my work somehow balanced the equation, that his theft was actually fair exchange. "Things didn't come easily to you," I counter. "You took them, from me, and called it teamwork." For a moment, something like genuine confusion crosses his face, as if the possibility that he might actually be in the wrong has never seriously occurred to him. Then the mask returns, his features rearranging into righteous indignation. "You'll regret this," he says, the threat hollow without the power dynamic that once gave it weight. "You need me more than I need you." I simply walk away, leaving him with his crumbling narrative and diminishing options. The final settlement comes 3 weeks later. Alex and Secure Forward are permanently barred from using any technology related. to my work, past or present. Financial damages are substantial, though the true victory is the binding agreement that requires public correction of all previous misattribution. Every paper, patent, and project where Alex claimed credit for my innovations must be formally amended to reflect the truth. The industry response is mixed. Some colleagues express shock and support, others display uncomfortable recognition of similar dynamics in their own workplaces. A few, primarily men with positions built on taking credit for others' innovations, distance themselves, suddenly too busy for meetings or collaborative projects. Maria Lopez calls the day after the settlement is announced. "The offer still stands," she says without preamble. "Daedalus would be honored to have you lead our security division. Complete attribution guaranteed, and a budget that would make Morgan Financial jealous." The opportunity is tempting. A fresh start in a company that approached me specifically because of my innovations, not as an afterthought to my brother. But something holds me back. "I appreciate the offer," I tell her. "But I've started something important at Morgan. The mentorship program is identifying talented developers who might otherwise be overlooked or exploited. I need to see it through." Maria's laugh carries genuine respect. "I thought you might say that. How about this? Bring the mentorship program to Daedalus. We'll fund it at triple your current budget and give you complete autonomy." The counteroffer gives me pause. Let me think about it. That evening, I meet with the first cohort of mentees from my program. 12 developers from underrepresented groups in tech, each brilliant in ways that might be overlooked in traditional corporate structures. We gather in a reserved section of a local restaurant, the atmosphere celebratory as they share recent achievements and challenges. Zara, a quietly innovative security specialist who reminds me of myself 5 years ago, approaches as the gathering winds down. "I wanted to thank you," she says, uncharacteristically emotional. "Not just for the technical guidance, but for showing us it's possible to reclaim your work, to demand recognition." Her words strike a chord deeper than any legal victory or corporate offer. In fighting for my own recognition, I've created space for others to do the same, a ripple effect that extends beyond my individual situation. The decision crystallizes. The next morning, I call Maria and accept her offer, with one condition. The mentorship program will be expanded nationwide, creating a network of support for talented individuals vulnerable to exploitation. 2 weeks later, I pack up my corner office at Morgan Financial. Patricia stops by during the process, her expression a mix of resignation and grudging respect. "You're making a mistake," she says, watching as I carefully place my framed patents in a box. "Morgan has supported you through this entire situation with your brother." "After years of enabling him," I counter. "The company only acknowledged my contributions when forced to by irrefutable evidence." "That's not support, it's damage control." She flinches slightly at the accuracy of the assessment. "What more could we have done?" The question feels genuine, an opportunity to ensure my departure creates lasting change. You could have questioned why a man with limited technical skills was producing sophisticated security architecture. You could have noticed the discrepancy between his presentation skills and his coding knowledge. You could have looked beyond the confident male voice to see who was actually doing the work. Patricia nods slowly, absorbing the critique. "And Daedalus will be different?" "Yes," I say with certainty, "because I'll make sure of it." My last act at Morgan Financial is addressing the development team, including those who suspected Alex's deception but remained silent. I leave them with a challenge rather than recrimination, to examine their own assumptions about who gets credit and why, to question confident assertions without substantive technical backing, to create space where innovation is recognized regardless of who presents it. As I drive away from the building that housed both my invisible contributions and my eventual recognition, I realize something fundamental has shifted. I'm no longer defining myself in opposition to Alex's theft, or in pursuit of validation from those who enabled it. I'm moving toward something new, A future where my work carries my name not because I fought for it, but because that's the natural order of things. The phone rings through my car speakers. Grandma calling for our now regular evening check-in. "How was your last day?" she asks. "Liberating," I answer truthfully. "I'm not looking back anymore." "Good," she says, satisfaction evident in her voice. "It's about time you stopped being defined by what was taken from you and started defining yourself by what you'll create next." Her words echo as I drive toward home, the evening sun casting long shadows across the city. What happens next will be fully mine, my innovations, my recognition, my legacy. No more shadows, no more theft, no more silence. Just the clear light of creation that bears my name. The Daedalus Tech headquarters occupies a renovated industrial building on the outskirts of the Innovation District. Its brick exterior preserving historical character, while the interior gleams with modern minimalism. My new office features exposed beams and floor-to-ceiling windows that flood the space with natural light. Unlike the corporate sterility of Morgan Financial, this environment feels designed for creativity rather than conformity. One wall has been transformed into a massive digital whiteboard where I can project my security architecture diagrams. Another holds framed testimonials from graduates of the mentorship program, now officially named RISE: Recognition, Innovation, Support, and Empowerment. The scope of the initiative has expanded beyond my initial vision, with regional chapters forming across the country. 6 months into my new role, I'm reviewing applications for the third mentorship cohort when Maria knocks on my open door. "Got a minute?" she asks, already settling into the chair across from my desk. Her characteristic directness was one of the qualities that convinced me to accept her offer. No games, no politics, just straightforward communication. "Always," I respond, setting aside the tablet. "What's up?" "Two things." She places a USB drive on my desk. "First, our legal team finished auditing all your previous work from Morgan Financial. Everything's been properly reattributed in their systems and the industry databases. The last of the paperwork came through this morning. The news brings a satisfaction deeper than I expected. The fight for recognition wasn't just about ego. It was about establishing an accurate record of innovation that others might build upon." "That's good to hear." "Second," Maria continues, "the National Technology Innovation Forum wants you to keynote their annual conference next month. Theme is Authenticity in Attribution, clearly inspired by your story, though they're too diplomatic to say so directly." My immediate instinct is to decline. Public speaking has never been my forte. I always preferred letting my code speak for itself. But that instinct is a relic of the old pattern, allowing others to present my ideas because I believed I couldn't do it effectively. "I'll do it," I say, surprising myself with the lack of hesitation. "Send me the details." Maria grins, clearly having anticipated resistance. "Already did. Check your email." She rises to leave, then pauses. "Oh, and there's a reporter from Tech Horizons in the lobby. Says she's working on a feature about industry leaders taking ownership of their innovations. I told her you don't do impromptu interviews, but she's persistent." My relationship with the media has been complicated since the story broke. Some outlets framed it as a bitter sibling rivalry rather than systematic intellectual theft. Others used it to advance broader narratives about gender in tech without nuancing the personal dynamics involved. I've learned to be cautious about which platforms I engage with. "Name?" I ask. "Diane Chen. No relation, I checked." Maria's thoroughness is another quality I've come to appreciate. The name is familiar. A respected journalist known for substantive analysis rather than sensationalism. Tell her I can spare 15 minutes, in the garden courtyard, not my office. The courtyard sits at the center of the Daedalus complex, a tranquil space where teams often gather to collaborate, or simply Decompress. I find Diane already waiting, her professional attire contrasting with the casual atmosphere. She rises as I approach, extending her hand. Ms. Chen, thank you for making time. I know you're selective about interviews. We settle on a bench beneath a Japanese maple, its leaves beginning to turn crimson with the approach of autumn. Diane places a small recorder between us after securing my permission. I've been following your story since the Morgan financial incident, she begins. But I'm less interested in rehashing those events than understanding what's happened since. How do you prevent attribution issues at Daedalus? The question is refreshingly direct, focused on solutions rather than scandal. We've implemented several structural changes, I explain. All projects have clear documentation of individual contributions. Performance reviews assess both technical innovation and collaborative ethics. And most importantly, we've created a culture where claiming others' work is career suicide, not a path to advancement. Diane nods, taking notes despite the recorder. And the mentorship program? I understand it's expanding nationally. RISE identifies talented individuals who might be vulnerable to exploitation and provides them with both technical guidance and professional advocacy. We're particularly focused on those who might be socialized to yield credit or minimize their contributions. Like you were, she observes. The comment lands with unexpected weight. Despite months of therapy and professional growth, I still struggle to fully acknowledge how deeply conditioned I had been to accept the erasure of my contributions. Yes, I admit, like I was. The interview continues for closer to 30 minutes than the promised 15, exploring themes of institutional accountability, industry reform, and personal resilience. As we conclude, Diane asks the question I've been expecting since we began. Have you had any contact with your brother since the settlement? I consider deflecting but opt for honesty. No, and I don't anticipate that changing. Something in my tone must convey finality, as she doesn't press further. Instead, she asks a more unexpected question. What about your parents? This relationship remains more complicated. Following their visit and acknowledgement of the pattern they had enabled, we've established tentative communication, monthly dinners where we carefully navigate old dynamics while trying to build healthier ones. We're finding our way towards something new, I offer. It's a work in progress. After Diane departs, I remain in the courtyard, reflecting on how much has changed in the year since the awards ceremony. The professional transformation is evident: leadership role, industry recognition, growing influence. But the personal evolution feels more significant. I no longer flinch when receiving credit. I no longer minimize my achievements out of habitual deference. I no longer organize my identity around what was taken from me. My phone chimes with a message from Zara, the mentee who has become something of a protege. Just got the offer from Sentinel Systems, Director of Quantum Security. Full attribution rights in the contract, just like you insisted. Thank you for everything. The message brings a smile and a sense of completion. Zara had been caught in a similar dynamic at her previous company. Brilliant innovations attributed to her charismatic team leader. The difference was that she recognized the pattern earlier and had support to break it sooner. As I head back to my office, I pass the technology lab where the RISE mentees often gather. Through the glass wall, I see them engaged in animated discussion around a holographic display of security protocols. Their faces reflect the diversity that traditional tech structures often fail to nurture. Different genders, races, ages, neurodivergent thinking styles. Each brings unique perspectives to security challenges, perspectives that might have been lost if their innovations were subsumed under more privileged voices. Back at my desk, I return to preparing for the upcoming keynote address. The outline feels inadequate. Too focused on my personal journey without connecting to the systemic issues that allowed someone like Alex to thrive by appropriating others' work. It needs something more, something that transforms individual experience into collective insight. My phone rings, a number I don't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answer. Emma Chen. My voice carries the professional confidence I've cultivated in my new role. A pause, then, Emma, it's me. Alex. After a year of silence, his voice sends an involuntary chill down my spine. I consider hanging up immediately, but find myself curious about what could possibly motivate this contact after everything that's happened. What do you want? I keep my tone neutral, neither hostile nor welcoming. Another pause. I'm calling because... He stops, starts again. I've been working with someone, a therapist specializing in narcissistic patterns. The admission is so unexpected that for a moment I wonder if this is really Alex or someone impersonating him. My brother would sooner claim to have invented therapy than admit to needing it. At first, it was just to satisfy the settlement conditions, he continues when I don't respond. But it's become more than that. I'm beginning to understand some things about what I did, about why. I remain silent, unwilling to offer the easy absolution he might be seeking. The legal settlement had indeed required psychological evaluation, but I had assumed he would find some way to manipulate the requirement or go through the motions without genuine engagement. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he says, as if reading my thoughts. I don't deserve that, but I wanted you to know that I'm finally facing what I did. Not just to you, but to everyone whose work I claimed throughout my career. The words should feel vindicating. Instead, they stir a complex mixture of emotions: skepticism about his sincerity, fatigue at the thought of re-engaging with our dysfunctional dynamic, and beneath it all, a faint, unwelcome flicker of the old hope that my brother might someday truly see me. Why are you telling me this? I ask, my guard still firmly in place. Because part of my recovery is taking full responsibility without expecting anything in return, he replies. And because I've been asked to make a public statement, acknowledging the full extent of my theft. Your innovations weren't the only ones I claimed as my own. The revelation isn't particularly surprising. If Alex had systematically taken credit for my work, it stood to reason he had done the same with others. But hearing him acknowledge it explicitly feels significant. I wanted you to hear it from me first, he continues, before it goes public, and to say that if there's anything I can do to help repair the damage I've caused, to your career, to our family, to the accurate record of technological development, I'm willing to do it, without conditions. The offer hangs in the air, between us. After a lifetime of manipulation and gaslighting, my instinct is to search for the hidden agenda, the subtle play for sympathy or advantage. But something in his voice suggests a genuine shift, however tentative. Make your statement, I say finally. Take real responsibility. That's all I ever wanted. The truth acknowledged. I know that now. His voice carries an unfamiliar humility. I've prepared a comprehensive account of everything I took from you and others. Names, dates, specific innovations. It's all documented and verified by an independent tech ethics committee. Why the change? I can't help asking. What's different now? A long silence stretches between us. When everything fell apart, he says eventually. When I lost my position and reputation, and even our parents' unconditional support, I had nothing left but the truth. And the truth was that I'd built my entire identity on claiming other people's brilliance because I didn't believe I had any of my own. The admission strikes closer to what might be genuine insight than anything I've ever heard from my brother. Not excuses or justifications, but recognition of the insecurity that drove his exploitation. My therapist calls it hollow achievement disorder, he continues. Building an identity around accomplishments that aren't yours, constantly needing more external validation because internally, you know you're a fraud. It doesn't excuse what I did, but it helps explain the compulsion to keep taking even when I knew it was wrong. I absorb this information without immediately responding. The diagnosis sounds plausible, though it does little to heal the damage caused by years of systematic theft. I hope you find healing, Alex, I say finally, meaning it despite everything. And I hope the people whose work you took find some justice in your acknowledgement. I've made arrangements to financially compensate everyone I can identify, he adds. It won't make up for the lost recognition, but it's something tangible, including you. There's a settlement being prepared that goes beyond the legal requirements. I don't want your money, I tell him. Donate it to Rise instead. Help prevent others from experiencing what I did. After we disconnect, I sit motionless, processing the unexpected conversation. Alex's apparent transformation seems almost too perfect to be trusted. Yet the commitment to public acknowledgement and financial restitution suggests something beyond mere performance. People can change when confronted with the consequences of their actions. Rarely, but sometimes. My assistant Theo appears at the door, reminding me of my next appointment, a meeting with the Rise leadership team to discuss expansion plans. The interruption is welcome, pulling me from circular thoughts about my brother's sincerity back to the constructive work that now defines my professional identity. The meeting room buzzes with energy as regional coordinators share updates on their local chapters. The program has grown beyond my initial vision, developing specialized tracks for different technical disciplines and career stages. What began as my personal response to exploitation has evolved into a movement, addressing patterns of attribution inequality across the industry. Midway through the meeting, a notification appears on my tablet, a breaking news alert featuring Alex's public statement. I mute it for later review, returning my attention to the passionate advocates who have turned my experience into a catalyst for systemic change. That evening, alone in my apartment, I finally watched the recorded statement. Alex sits at a simple desk, no corporate logos or staging visible. His appearance is notably different, the polished charm replaced by a straightforward demeanor that feels less performed. My name is Alexander Chen, he begins, and for the past 15 years, I have systematically taken credit for other people's work, particularly in the field of cybersecurity. He proceeds to detail specific innovations he claimed, naming each rightful creator and the circumstances of his appropriation. The list is extensive, starting with childhood science projects and extending through his entire career. When he reaches the section about my work, his voice wavers slightly. The most extensive and damaging theft was of my sister Emma Chen's innovations. From our earliest childhood competitions through professional security systems development, I repeatedly claimed her brilliant work as my own. This wasn't occasional or accidental. It was deliberate, calculated, and sustained over decades. The validation is powerful, even now. After years of gaslighting and minimization, hearing the unvarnished truth acknowledged publicly feels like the final piece of a long-sought resolution. I make this statement not seeking forgiveness, Alex concludes, but in service of historical accuracy and professional accountability. The brilliant minds whose work I claim deserve recognition, and the record of technological development deserves correction. I am working with industry organizations to ensure proper attribution is restored in all relevant patents, publications, and historical accounts. I close the video, emotions too complex to readily identify. There's closure in his confession, but also a strange grief for what might have been if he had channeled his charisma and presentation skills toward ethical collaboration rather than exploitation. My phone chimes with a message from Jessica. Just saw Alex's statement. You did it, Em. You broke the pattern for good. Her words clarify what I'm feeling. Not triumph over Alex's downfall, but victory over the destructive dynamic that diminished us both in different ways. By standing firm against his appropriation, I forced a confrontation with reality that might ultimately lead to his redemption. By refusing to remain invisible, I created space for both of us to potentially become better versions of ourselves. The next morning brings a flurry of media requests in response to Alex's statement. I decline most, but agree to a joint interview with several other innovators named in his confession, focusing on industry reforms that might prevent similar patterns of exploitation. The conversation is powerful. Individuals from different companies and technical backgrounds sharing strikingly similar experiences of having their work claimed by more privileged colleagues. The problem extends far beyond one man's actions, explains Dr. Layla Patel, whose groundbreaking work on quantum encryption had been presented by Alex at a major conference. It's about systems that reward confidence over competence, presentation over innovation, and certain voices over others regardless of merit. Her observation dovetails perfectly with the message I've been developing for my keynote address. That evening, I revised the speech, shifting from personal narrative to systemic analysis, using my experience as a lens through which to examine broader patterns of attribution inequality. 2 weeks later, I stand before the assembled leaders of the technology sector at the National Innovation Forum. The audience represents the full spectrum of the industry: established corporations alongside emerging startups, academic researchers alongside venture capitalists. The spotlight feels unfamiliar but no longer threatening as I take my place at the podium. For most of my career, I begin, my innovations were hidden behind someone else's name. My brother claimed credit for my work systematically, consistently, and with the full support of family dynamics and industry structures that found his version of events more convenient than the truth. The room remains silent, attentive in a way that suggests many recognize the pattern from their own organizations. But this talk isn't about one person's misconduct, I continue. It's about the systems that enable and reward such behavior. About why some voices are amplified while others are muted. About how we determine who gets credit and why. Over the next hour, I outline practical strategies for ensuring accurate attribution, transparency in development processes, clear documentation of individual contributions, structural support for those socialized to minimize their achievements, cultural shifts that value substantive innovation over confident presentation. The goal isn't retribution, I emphasize, but restoration of truth, of opportunity, of the accurate historical record of how technology evolves. When we allow credit to be misattributed, we don't just harm individuals, we distort our understanding of how innovation actually happens and who drives it forward. The standing ovation that follows feels like vindication not just for me, but for everyone who has ever had their contributions erased or diminished. As I step away from the podium, I'm approached by a woman whose name badge identifies her as the CTO of a major tech conglomerate. "Your experience resonates deeply," she says, shaking my hand. "We've been implementing some of the accountability structures you described, but there's clearly more work to be done. Would you consider consulting with our leadership team about more comprehensive reforms?" Similar requests follow throughout the evening reception. Technology leaders seeking guidance on creating environments where attribution is accurate and exploitation is impossible. The role of industry reformer wasn't one I sought, but it feels like a natural evolution of my journey from victim to advocate. Later that night in my hotel room, I receive an email from an unexpected source: my father. The subject line reads, "Simply proud of you." The body contains a link to a video of my keynote and 3 words: "You were right." The acknowledgement brings unexpected tears. After decades of being told to make myself smaller for family harmony, having my voice validated by the very person who once silenced it feels like coming full circle. My phone rings, Grandma calling for her regular check-in. "I watched your speech online," she says when I answer. "You reminded me of myself at your age, the self I might have been if I'd had your courage." "I learned it from you," I tell her, meaning it. Her quiet resilience through years of having her own contributions minimized had shown me that survival was possible, even if she hadn't demonstrated how to break free. "No," she counters gently. "You learned something new, something I never managed. You learned that your voice matters enough to fight for. That's a gift you're giving to future generations, not something you inherited from mine. Her words stay with me as I prepare for bed, illuminating the true significance of the past year's transformation. By reclaiming my work, I've created a template for others to do the same. By speaking publicly about exploitation, I've made it harder for similar patterns to persist unchallenged. By refusing to remain in the shadows, I've helped illuminate a path for those who might otherwise have accepted erasure as inevitable. The realization brings a sense of purpose deeper than personal vindication. This was never just about setting the record straight regarding my individual contributions. It was about changing the record-keeping system itself, ensuring that future innovations carry their rightful creators' names regardless of who speaks the loudest or most confidently. As I drift toward sleep, my thoughts turn to tomorrow's schedule. A breakfast meeting with education leaders interested in implementing attribution awareness in STEM programs, followed by a strategy session with the RISE leadership team. The work of reform continues, extending beyond corporate structures into the educational systems that shape future innovators. The journey that began with that moment of recognition in the hotel bathroom, watching my brother access my phone, while I stood dripping in a towel, has expanded beyond anything I could have imagined. From reclaiming my individual achievements to reshaping how an entire industry understands and records innovation. Some nights, I still dream of standing in shadows while Alex accepts accolades for my work. But those dreams no longer feel like prophecy or reflection, merely echoes of a pattern permanently broken, a future successfully averted through the simple, revolutionary act of speaking the truth. 2 years after the award ceremony that changed everything, I stand at the window of my lake house, watching the morning sunlight sparkle across the water. This retreat, purchased with my first substantial royalty payment from properly attributed patents, has become my sanctuary, a place to create without shadows or expectations. The property sits on a quiet cove, surrounded by pine trees that whisper in the breeze. The air smells of cedar and freshly brewed coffee. In the distance, morning fog lifts from the water's surface, revealing a family of ducks gliding serenely across the glassy lake. The peace of this moment feels earned, a hard-won contrast to the turmoil of reclaiming my professional identity. My laptop sits open on the desk behind me, displaying the final draft of my book, Invisible Innovation: Reclaiming Credit in the Technology Industry. The manuscript emerged organically from my keynote address, expanding from personal narrative to comprehensive analysis of attribution patterns across the sector. The publisher expects it to become a standard text in business ethics programs and technology management courses. My phone chimes with a calendar alert, a virtual meeting with the newest RISE chapter launching in Singapore. The program has expanded globally, with regional hubs adapting the core principles to their specific cultural contexts. What began as my personal response to exploitation has evolved into an international movement, changing how attribution functions in technology development. As I prepare for the call, I review the latest industry metrics compiled by the RISE research team. The data tells a compelling story of transformation, a 47% increase in patents filed by previously underrepresented innovators, a dramatic shift in attribution patterns across major tech companies, and a growing culture of collaborative creation that values accurate credit over hierarchical positioning. The Singapore team appears on my screen, their faces reflecting the diversity that RISE deliberately cultivates. Dr. Min Zhang, the regional director, begins with updates on their local initiatives. We've established partnerships with 5 major technology firms in Southeast Asia, she reports. Each has implemented the attribution verification system you developed at Daedalus. The early results are revealing previously invisible innovation networks, particularly among technical staff, who weren't being recognized in official documentation. As the meeting progresses, I'm struck by how the conversation has evolved from my personal experience to systemic solutions. we discuss metrics, implementation strategies, and cultural adaptation, rather than my brother's theft or my journey to visibility. The work has transcended its origins, addressing patterns larger than any individual case. After the call ends, I return to the window, considering how far things have come. 3 years ago, I stood silently in hotel bathroom doorways and conference room corners, watching my innovations being claimed by someone else. Now those same innovations bear my name in the historical record, and more importantly, the systems that enabled such theft are being dismantled across the industry. My reflection is interrupted by another call. Jessica, whose friendship has remained a constant through all the changes. "Just checking you're still coming to the ceremony tomorrow," she says when I answer. "The foundation board is expecting you." "I'll be there, I promise. Wouldn't miss it for anything." The technology. Ethics Foundation had grown from a collaborative vision Jessica and I developed during those early days of reclaiming my work. Using portions of the settlement funds from Alex's public acknowledgement, we established an organization dedicated to promoting ethical attribution practices and supporting those whose innovations had been appropriated. Tomorrow marks the official launch of their scholarship program for young innovators from marginalized backgrounds. "How's the lake house?" Jessica asks. "Still avoiding civilization?" "Just enjoying the quiet," I counter. "It's a good place to think." The truth is more complex. After years of fighting for visibility in crowded corporate environments, the solitude of the lake house offers welcome respite. Here, my thoughts are unquestionably my own. My creations emerge without external pressure or expectation. The isolation isn't escapism but recalibration, learning to create from internal motivation rather than reactive positioning. After we disconnect, I check my email to find a message from an unexpected source, Colin Monroe, a developer from Secure Forward, Alex's former company. The subject line reads, "Important information regarding Phoenix system derivatives." The message is detailed and technical, outlining how certain components of my original architecture have been modified and implemented in products currently being developed at several companies, including Colin's current employer. He provides documentation showing that while these adaptations technically avoid patent infringement, they clearly build upon my foundation without appropriate acknowledgement. "I recognized your architecture immediately," he writes. "The quantum entanglement approach to encryption is distinctly yours, though they've adapted the implementation just enough to claim originality. After following your advocacy work with Rise, I couldn't remain silent about this. What would you advise? The situation presents a familiar pattern, but with a critical difference. This time, I have the authority, reputation, and resources to address it effectively. 3 years ago, I was fighting to establish my claim to my own innovations. Now, I'm being consulted as an authority on attribution ethics. I forward the documentation to Sandra Marshall, the lawyer who handled my case against Alex and who now serves on the Technology Ethics Foundation board. Her response comes within hours, outlining potential approaches ranging from formal attribution requests to more assertive legal interventions. "Your choice," she concludes. "We have multiple viable paths forward. The options feel empowering rather than overwhelming. I decide on an approach that balances accountability with opportunity for reform, reaching out directly to the companies involved with clear documentation and a framework for proper attribution moving forward, backed by the implicit understanding that legal action remains available if necessary." The strategy reflects my evolving philosophy on attribution issues, focused more on correction than punishment, on establishing better systems rather than simply winning individual battles. The goal isn't to shame those who build upon others' work, but to ensure that the innovation chain is accurately documented and respected. As evening approaches, I move to the deck overlooking the lake. The setting sun casts long shadows across the water, a reminder of how perspective shifts with time and position. My phone rings again, Mom calling for our weekly check-in. Our relationship has transformed over the past 3 years, rebuilding from the ashes of old patterns into something more honest, if still occasionally awkward. After their initial acknowledgement of their role in enabling Alex's behavior, my parents embarked on their own journey of self-examination. Family therapy sessions revealed generational patterns of favoritism and exploitation that extended far beyond my relationship with Alex. "I've been reading the draft chapters you sent," Mom says after we exchange greetings. "It's illuminating to see everything laid out so clearly." I had hesitated before sharing the manuscript with her, knowing it contained unflinching analysis of our family dynamics. But concealing the truth would only perpetuate the silence that allowed the exploitation to continue for so long. "Was it difficult to read?" I ask. "Yes," she admits. "Seeing our failures documented so precisely is painful, but necessary. Your father and I have been talking about it constantly since we finished the chapters." The acknowledgement represents significant progress. 3 years ago, they would have rejected any criticism of their parenting or family structure as disloyalty. Now they're engaging with it directly, however uncomfortable the process. "Will you be coming to the foundation launch tomorrow?" I ask, changing the subject to something less charged. "We'd like to," she says carefully, "if you're comfortable with us being there." The invitation feels genuine rather than manipulative. "I'd like that," I tell her, surprised to find I mean it. Their presence represents continuity amidst transformation, acknowledgement that while relationships can be fundamentally rebuilt, they don't need to be completely abandoned when healthy. Change is possible. After we disconnect, I return to my manuscript, making final edits to the chapter on family dynamics that enable professional exploitation. The words flow easily now, free of the anger that once colored my analysis. Time and distance have provided perspective, allowing me to examine patterns with clinical precision rather than reactive emotion. Morning brings a text from Zara, now leading her own security team at a major financial institution. "Using your attribution framework in our new development process. Entire team loves it. Credit flows to the right people automatically now. You changed everything." Her message captures the essence of what these years of advocacy have meant, not just correcting historical wrongs, but creating new structures where such wrongs become increasingly difficult to perpetrate. The systems we've developed ensure attribution happens naturally throughout the development process, rather than being assigned retrospectively based on position or presentation skills. I dress carefully for the foundation launch, selecting a tailored suit in deep blue, professional without being corporate, authoritative without being intimidating. The pendant at my throat contains a microchip with my first significant algorithm, transformed into wearable art by a tech jeweler, who specializes in commemorating innovations. It serves as a tangible reminder of the journey from invisibility to recognition. The drive into the city feels like traversing different worlds, from the natural solitude of the lake to the constructed energy of urban spaces. The Technology Ethics Foundation headquarters occupies the renovated top floor of a historic building. Downtown, its architecture balancing heritage with modernity in a way that reflects our mission of honoring the past while creating better futures. The event space buzzes with conversation as I arrive. Industry leaders mingling with young innovators, legal experts engaged with technical developers. Jessica approaches immediately, resplendent in a crimson dress that stands out among the more conservative business attire. "Perfect timing," she says, guiding me through the crowd. "The scholarship recipients are eager to meet you." The 5 inaugural scholars represent diverse backgrounds and technical disciplines, each selected for both innovative potential and commitment to ethical practices. Their enthusiasm as we discuss their projects reminds me why this work matters. Beyond my personal vindication, their brilliance deserves recognition without the struggles I endured. As I move through the gathering, I spot my parents near the entrance, looking somewhat uncertain in this unfamiliar environment. Dad's suit appears newly purchased, Mom's dress carefully selected. Their effort to participate appropriately in this milestone touches me unexpectedly. I approach them, noticing how they've aged over these tumultuous years. Dad's shoulders seem less imposing, Mom's perfect composure showing subtle cracks. The facades that once made them seem infallible have yielded to more human vulnerability. "I'm glad you came," I tell them sincerely. "It means a lot." Mom's eyes fill with tears. She quickly blinks away. "We wouldn't miss it. This is important work you're doing." Dad nods, uncharacteristically quiet. His gaze sweeps the room, taking in the name tags identifying innovators whose work had previously gone unrecognized. "I've been reading about attribution, ethics," he says finally, trying to understand what we got so wrong. The admission, so different from his former certainty, suggests genuine growth rather than strategic adaptation. "There's a lot to learn," I acknowledge. "For all of us." A subtle commotion near the entrance draws my attention. The crowd shifts, conversations pause, and I turn to see what has caused the disruption. Alex stands in the doorway, unmistakable despite significant changes in his appearance. Gone is the carefully cultivated charisma, the polished corporate veneer. He looks thinner, more subdued, his expression tentative rather than commanding. He scans the room until our eyes meet across the crowd. My stomach tightens with instinctive tension. We haven't seen each other in person since the legal proceedings 2 years ago. Our limited communication has occurred through intermediaries, lawyers, therapists. Occasionally, our parents, once relationships began to cautiously rebuild. "Did you invite him?" I ask Jessica, who has materialized at my side. "No," she answers, surprise evident in her tone. The guest list was carefully managed. Dad steps forward. "We did," he admits. Alex asked if he could attend. His therapist thought it might be an important step in his recovery process, seeing the positive outcomes of the corrective actions. The old Emma would have felt ambushed, manipulated by family expectations to accommodate Alex's needs above her own boundaries. But I'm not that person anymore. I'll speak with him, I decide, making my way through the crowd. Alex remains by the entrance, making no move to approach anyone. His body language communicates uncertainty rather than his former entitlement. When I reach him, he straightens slightly, but doesn't offer his hand or presume familiarity. "I should have called first," he begins. "I wasn't sure you'd take my call." "Why are you here, Alex?" I keep my tone neutral, neither welcoming nor hostile. He gestures to the foundation signs and materials displayed throughout the space. "To see what you've built from what happened. My therapist suggested it might help me understand the full impact of my actions, not just the harm, but the constructive response to that harm." The explanation sounds rehearsed, but sincere. The language of someone actively engaged in therapeutic work, rather than manipulative performance. "This isn't just about you and me anymore," I tell him, indicating the diverse gathering. "It's about changing systems that enable exploitation, about creating different possibilities for all these people." Alex nods, his gaze taking in the scholars, the industry leaders who have implemented attribution reforms, the developers whose innovations now carry their rightful names. I understand that now. My actions were part of a larger pattern. Breaking that pattern matters beyond our individual situation. The acknowledgement feels significant. Recognition that the issue transcends our personal conflict to address structural problems. For the first time, Alex seems to see beyond his own narrative to the broader implications of attribution ethics. "I won't stay long," he continues. "I just wanted to see this, to understand what you've created, and to tell you in person that the work I'm doing with Dr. Hendricks is helping me recognize patterns I didn't even know were operating. It doesn't excuse anything, but maybe it helps explain some of it. Something shifts in my perception. Not forgiveness exactly, but a recognition that Alex too is evolving beyond the dynamic that defined us for so long. The brother who systematically stole my work, and the sister who silently enabled him. Both those people are transforming into something more conscious, more intentional. The foundation is launching a research initiative on psychological factors in attribution behaviors. I find myself saying, you might have insights to contribute if you're willing to document your experience objectively. The offer surprises us both. Not reconciliation, but professional recognition that his perspective might have scholarly value in understanding and preventing similar patterns. It acknowledges his agency in his own redemption story while maintaining appropriate boundaries. I'd like that, he says simply. Thank you. As Alex moves toward the exit, having understood the limits of his welcome at this event, I return to the center of the gathering. Jessica gives me a questioning look, which I answer with a nod, indicating that the interaction was manageable. The formal program begins with Jessica introducing the Foundation's mission and the scholarship initiative. When she calls me to the podium to deliver the keynote address, the audience's applause feels different from any recognition I've previously received, not celebrating technical achievement, but acknowledging the more complex accomplishment of transforming personal injury into systemic change. 3 years ago, I begin. I stood silently in a hotel ballroom watching someone else receive an award for my work. That moment of painful clarity launched a journey that has expanded far, beyond reclaiming my own innovations to addressing the structures that make such appropriation possible and even rewarded. The faces before me reflect various relationships to this mission: young innovators seeking protection from exploitation, industry leaders implementing attribution reforms, legal experts developing new frameworks for intellectual recognition, even my parents coming to terms with their role in enabling harmful patterns. The Technology Ethics Foundation isn't about correcting past wrongs, though that remains important work. It's about creating future environments where innovation is accurately attributed from inception, where credit flows naturally to those who generate ideas rather than those positioned to claim them, where the historical record of technological development reflects reality rather than privilege. As I continue outlining the Foundation's initiatives and vision, I'm struck by how the narrative has evolved. What began as personal vindication has transformed into structural reform. My individual story matters primarily as a catalyst for systemic change, a pattern breaking that enables new possibilities beyond my own experience. The evening concludes with the formal presentation of scholarships and research grants. As recipients share their visions for ethical innovation, I observe the gathering from a slight distance, not hiding in shadows as I once did, but choosing perspective that allows me to appreciate the collective achievement this represents. My parents approach as the formal program ends and networking begins. "We're proud of you," Dad says, the words still unfamiliar in his voice but increasingly genuine. Not just for your technical achievements, but for how you've handled all of this. For creating something constructive from something destructive. Mom adds, "The Foundation will help so many people avoid what you experienced. That's a remarkable legacy." Their recognition feels healing in a way I couldn't have anticipated when this journey began. Not because I still need their validation, but because it signals their own growth beyond the patterns that caused so much harm. Later, as the event winds down, I find myself on the rooftop terrace overlooking the city lights. Jessica joins me, champagne glasses in hand. "To visibility," she toasts, the significance extending beyond our personal history to the Foundation's broader mission. "And to recognition," I add, clinking my glass against hers. We stand in comfortable silence, watching the city glow beneath us. The future stretches forward with possibilities I couldn't have imagined 3 years ago. Not just professional opportunities, but the chance to fundamentally change how innovation is understood and credited across an entire industry. The journey from that hotel bathroom doorway to this rooftop has transformed not just my career, but my understanding of what matters. It was never really about the awards or accolades, the patents or positions. It was about truth, the foundational truth that creation deserves acknowledgement, that innovation builds upon accurately attributed foundations, that the historical record should reflect reality rather than convenience. As Jessica returns inside to coordinate final details with the event staff, I remain on the terrace, savoring this moment of completion. The cycle that began with theft has culminated in creation, not just of properly attributed technologies, but of new systems that make such attribution standard rather than exceptional. Tomorrow, I'll return to the lake house and my ongoing projects. The quiet there feels different now. Not a retreat from invisibility, but a chosen space for creation without distraction. My name stands clearly on my work. My voice carries authority. In my field, my innovations build the future I envision rather than someone else's reputation. The stars emerge above the city's glow, constant despite the changing landscape below. Something about their ancient light reminds me of how innovation truly functions, each generation building upon the accurately recognized contributions of those who came before, creating an illuminated path that extends far beyond any individual journey. I've found my place in that constellation, not defined by what was taken from me, but by what I've created in response. Not as a victim of exploitation, but as an architect of attribution. Not standing in shadows, but casting light that helps others find their way forward. The door opens behind me as the last guests prepare to depart. Beyond them, I can see the Foundation's mission statement illuminated on the main wall, ensuring every innovation carries its creator's name. Every creator receives their deserved recognition. Every recognition reflects historical truth. V.E. Words capture what these years of transformation have ultimately been about. Not just reclaiming my brother's theft, but reimagining how recognition functions across an entire industry. The personal has become structural, the individual experience expanded to systemic reform. I turn toward the gathering, ready to close this chapter and begin the next. No longer invisible, no longer silent, but present and accounted for in the ongoing story of innovation. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.